I knew heartbreak could be cruel, but I never thought it would taste like burnt coffee at 3 a.m. and the dull ache of a phone screen that never lit up. That night, I stayed awake, eyes glued to the little rectangle of light on my nightstand, waiting for his name to appear. And when it finally did, it wasn't a message to Mike, it was a post. A picture of a letter he had written for someone else. It wasn't supposed to be like this. Ethan and I had met in the most American cliché possible. Two guys in the same literature class, fighting over the last copy of The Great Gatsby in the campus bookstore. He had laughed, a crooked grin lighting up his whole face, and said, "Fine, you take it, but only if you promise to tell me what you think of the ending." That was the start of late-night coffees, movie marathons, and study sessions that turned into something that felt suspiciously like dates, except he never called them that. I called them everything but. For weeks, maybe months, I convinced myself I was imagining it, that the way his hand lingered when it brushed mine was accidental, that his texts at 2 a.m. meant nothing more than boredom. But then he'd say things like, "No one gets me the way you do," or, "Sometimes I feel like you're the only person I can breathe around." And how was I supposed to not believe that meant something? So I stayed up all night, waiting for proof that I wasn't crazy. Instead, I got a punch in the gut. Ethan's scrawled handwriting in a photograph, captioned with someone else's name. A love letter. For someone that wasn't me. The next morning, the sun rose too bright, too cheerful, mocking me with every ray that spilled through my blinds. I dragged myself to campus, running on zero sleep and too much bitterness, trying to pretend that I didn't care. But the universe has a sick sense of humor, because who was sitting on the steps outside the English building, letter still folded in his hand? Ethan. He looked up, and for a second, his face softened like he'd been waiting for me. My heart betrayed me, stuttered with that same old foolish hope. "Hey," he said, like nothing had happened, like I hadn't watched him give my place away to someone else. "Don't." I cut him off, sharper than I meant to. My voice cracked anyway. "Don't act like we're fine." His smile faltered, the guilt flickering behind his eyes undeniable. But instead of defending himself, he just sat there in silence, staring at me as if he was trying to memorize the hurt on my face. "Who's it for?" I asked finally, each word tasting like blood. He opened his mouth, closed it again, and then said softly, "It's complicated." Complicated. The word nearly broke me, because wasn't that exactly what we were? 1,000 unspoken feelings, stitched together by late-night talks and almost kisses. A fragile mess of hope and fear. I wanted to scream at him, demand answers, rip that stupid letter out of his hand. Instead, I turned away. My chest felt heavy, like I was leaving behind something I couldn't carry anymore. But Ethan didn't let me go. His footsteps followed mine, fast, uneven, until he caught my wrist just as I stepped off the curb. "Wait," he said, and his voice cracked this time. "It's not what you think." I laughed, bitter and tired. "Oh, really? Because what I think is that I stayed up all night waiting for you to care, and all I got was proof that you care about someone else." His grip loosened, and for a moment, he looked like I had slapped him. He shoved the letter into his backpack, as if hiding it could erase what I had already seen. "You don't understand. It's not even for her." "Her?" My heart clenched at the word. Ethan winced. "My mom. She's been trying to set me up with this girl she thinks is perfect for me, and she wanted me to write her a letter. I wasn't writing it because I wanted to." The explanation should have been a relief, but it only twisted the knife deeper. Because if he wasn't writing love letters to someone else, then why couldn't he just write one to me? Why couldn't he admit what was already between us? I pulled my wrist from his grasp. "You don't get it, Ethan. I don't care who it was for. What kills me is that it wasn't for me." Silence fell between us, thick and suffocating. His eyes shimmered with something I couldn't name, fear, maybe, or regret, but he didn't say the words I needed to hear. And I realized then that maybe he never would. I walked away, but the universe, cruel and relentless, wasn't done with us yet. The rest of the day passed in a haze. I skipped my classes, wandered aimlessly through the city streets, past coffee shops and bookstores that all smelled like him. My phone buzzed with his name more times than I could count, but I didn't open a single message. Couldn't. By the time evening fell, the August air was heavy and sticky, the kind that clung to your skin. I ended up at the old pier by the river, the one Ethan and I had discovered on a late-night drive months ago. We had sat there for hours back then, legs dangling over the water, talking about everything and nothing. He had looked at me that night with eyes so soft, I swore the stars were jealous. Now the pier felt haunted. I sat on the wooden planks, knees pulled to my chest, watching the city lights blur across the rippling water. And even then, even in my heartbreak, all I could think was how much I wished he was here, sitting beside me. Of course, that's exactly when his voice came from behind me. "You always run here when you're hurting." I froze. Slowly, I turned, and there he was, messy blonde hair damp from sweat, chest rising and falling like he had sprinted the whole way. His eyes found mine, raw and desperate, and suddenly it was like the world held its breath. "I can't let you walk away," Ethan whispered. "I can't let you walk away," Ethan whispered. His voice trembled like he was confessing a crime. I wanted to tell him it was too late, that he should have fought for me before I had to bleed for him. But when I met his eyes, something in me cracked. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't teasing. He looked terrified, like I was the last thing he had left to lose. "Why now?" My words were low, nearly swallowed by the hum of the city. "Why wait until I'm gone?" He stepped closer, cautious, like I was a wild animal ready to bolt. "Because I was scared, okay? Scared of saying it out loud. Scared of what it would mean. But then I saw your face this morning and I realized, God, I realized I'd rather risk everything than let you think you don't matter to me." The confession hit me like a wave I wasn't ready for. My chest ached, my throat tightened, and yet a part of me still fought against it. Because love wasn't supposed to come out of fear, wasn't supposed to be hidden until it was almost too late. "You don't get to say that now," I said, though my voice broke on the last word. Ethan's hands fisted at his sides. "I do. I have to. You think I don't care? You think I'd spend every night in your crappy dorm room, listening to your rants about professors, eating instant noodles with you on the floor, memorizing every damn expression you make, if I didn't care?" His voice cracked. "I'm in love with you, all right? I've been in love with you for months, and I was too much of a coward to admit it." The world seemed to tilt. I wanted to be angry. I wanted to scream that it wasn't enough, that love meant nothing if he couldn't stand beside me when it mattered. But my body betrayed me. My tears burned, my breath stuttered, and before I knew it, I was clutching the wood beneath me just to stay grounded. "Then why the letter?" I whispered. He knelt down in front of me, his hands hovering inches from mine, trembling with restraint. "Because my mom doesn't know. No one does. She wanted me to write that letter to some girl, to pretend. And I almost did, because it was easier than facing her disappointment. But when I saw how it hurt you, I realized I can't keep pretending. Not with you. Not anymore." His words spilled out like a dam breaking. And in them, I heard not just desperation, but truth. The pier creaked under us as the silence stretched. My heart warred between self-preservation and the undeniable pull of the boy in front of me. Ethan, stupid, infuriating, beautiful Ethan, was begging me with his whole being to see him, to choose him, to forgive him. And maybe I was even more of a fool than I thought, because against every ounce of pride, I did. I reached out, finally, fingers brushing against his. His breath hitched like I had just given him oxygen. "Don't you ever make me feel like second place again," I said, my voice hoarse but steady. His hand closed around mine instantly, firm, almost shaking. "Never, I swear. You're it for me." And then, before I could stop myself, before the fear could return, I leaned forward and kissed him. It wasn't soft or tentative, it was messy, desperate, tasting of salt and summer and every unsent message between us. His hand cupped my jaw, pulling me closer like he was terrified I'd disappear. And I kissed him back like I'd been waiting my whole life for this exact moment. When we finally broke apart, breathing hard, the city lights blurred behind him. His forehead pressed against mine, his voice nothing more than a whisper. "I love you," he said. "Not in some secret, hidden way. I love you like the sun loves to rise. Like I can't stop even if I tried." For the first time in days, maybe months, I let myself smile. "You're still a terrible writer," I muttered, and his laugh shaky. Relieved, beautiful filled the night air. The weeks that followed weren't perfect. His mom cried when he told her the truth, and I had to hold his hand under the table while she tried to understand. People stared when he brushed his fingers against mine on campus, and some whispered words I'd rather not repeat. But through it all, he never let go. Every morning, there was a text waiting on my phone. Not excuses, not delays, but words just for me. Sometimes dumb jokes, sometimes late-night confessions, sometimes just, "Good morning, love." And every time I remembered that night on the pier, when he finally chose me out loud. Love isn't easy. It isn't simple. It's terrifying and messy, and sometimes it hurts like hell. But standing beside Ethan, watching the way his smile softened when he looked at me, I realized something I had been too afraid to believe. Some risks are worth taking. And Thesusit was worth everything. The last time I stayed up all night, it wasn't waiting for a text that never came. It was lying in his arms, listening to the sound of his heartbeat, wide awake because I couldn't believe I finally had what I'd been hoping for all along. And for once, I didn't feel like a fool. It felt like I was home. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.